Welcome to episode 9 of the Always On podcast series. I'm your host, Jason Albuquerque, Carousel CIO and CISO. I'm coming to you today from Albuquerque Quarterdeck, which is extremely appropriate for today's episode. We have a couple special guests here from Avaya and RingCentral. We're going to talk about how the future isn't work from home and ultimately how to leverage UCaaS to make work less work. This is the Always On podcast series where we explore the intersection between technology, security, and the business with the industry's best. All right, let's go. So we have two special guests here today. We have Toussaint Celestin from RingCentral and Steve Forcum from Avaya. And Toussaint supports RingCentral's channel community as a product marketer, delivering insights on the latest features, product messaging, and industry trends, helping partners excel as trusted advisors for their customers. And Steven is responsible for educating the entire Avaya constituency, customers, partners, sales agents, colleagues on the Avaya products, updates, services, and initiatives through speaking engagements, webinars, blogging, and a very highly engaged social media presence. So gentlemen, welcome to the Always On podcast. Great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Good to be here, Jason.
Excellent. I'm super excited for this because honestly, I mean, look at this. We're all working from home right now. We've had these buzzwords over the course of the last year. The new normal, the new way we work. But in all honesty, let's face the facts, right? This has been normal for some of us, right? Work from home has been something that organizations have been doing for over a decade in some instances. Now, they may have been disrupted a little bit where now, they're expecting video instead of audio calls and folks actually have to get ready for some meetings, right? And look presentable. But at the end of the day, they were used to remote workforces, but there was an incredible amount of disruption, right? We saw some companies who weren't really ready for that quick disruption. We've seen some organizations who had a 5-year digital transformation plan that all of a sudden accelerated to 6 months and they had to make it happen. But at the end of the day, 12 months later, this is the nature of work. This is how we're all working, right? And when I look at it and what I've experienced over the course of the last 12 months is it's not just work from home, it's work from anywhere, right? We were talking earlier, Toussaint, how we have folks who, are going to their quote unquote summer homes to do work, right? For a month or so. Folks working overseas who would normally be in the office and really showing that level of productivity. So ultimately what I want to do here is I want to have a frank discussion, right? A frank discussion on what RingCentral and Avaya have seen about these trends over the last year since the pandemic started, since work life has been disrupted, and really now that we're in that work from anywhere type position. So Toussaint, I'd like to start with you. What are some really impactful case studies, client stories about organizations who've adopted UCaaS and really been able to navigate the complexity of dealing with COVID, dealing with a remote workforce, and dealing with productivity, having this distributed work from anywhere type workforce?
Yeah, a great question, Jason. And, as you would probably expect, we've got customer feedback and case studies across the board, across business segments, across verticals in terms of how the work from anywhere environment has just really challenged the technology that IT strategies are trying to roll out this year and the following year. And, more so now that people are realizing that COVID is not going to be a one-off in terms of a short-term event. We've got a plan now for multiple months, if not years. And there's this idea that the work from anywhere won't result in 100% of the workforce coming back to a building environment. You're looking at hybrid environments, you're looking at work from home and work from temporary locations as well. Like you mentioned, people working long distance. But to get to your point about case studies, we found that UCaaS is really being embraced now for those other employees that weren't road warriors pre-COVID. And there are a couple of verticals I'd like to just highlight from a RingCentral perspective, and they're some of our core verticals. Healthcare, finance, retail. Let's take finance because guess what? We're all going to be doing our taxes pretty soon. And we've got a company Jason Hewitt. I believe they're in your neck of the woods. They're up in New England, Mid-Atlantic. They do a lot of tax accounting work. And that white glove personal touch is key for a lot of customers, issue one. Issue two, there's a great amount of seasonal workforce that comes on board, maybe not to do the taxes, but to manage the workflow and to interact with clientele. And then three, that contact center component is also a part of it. And there's where you find employees who are not road warriors needing to not only acclimate themselves to UCaaS. So it's got to be super easy, and that's the thing that Avaya and RingCentral have been stressing across the board. Make this really super easy, but it's more than just video. And that's where I think from an executive perspective, people are understanding the power of UCaaS, having it under one umbrella to do not just only video, but messaging, sharing files, being able to ping each other while you have a customer on the call so that you don't have to call them back or keep them on hold forever. Having it all under one umbrella is something that is becoming top of mind for executives as they're looking at UCaaS solutions. So, finance, I think, is an area, and of course, retail, you can see that obviously being the case as well, but there are many verticals where that's important.
Yeah, and that's funny that you mentioned that, right? I mean, I recently had a family member who were having a conversation around, financial investments and working with a financial advisor. And they're a little bit older, so they're old school. And it's one of those scenarios where the experience wasn't great when they were, working with the folks at this company because they did everything over traditional phone. They didn't transform their business. And this family member actually said to me, it would have been great to at least get on some type of a video call to see the person's face who I'm about to wire a lot of money to. And I'm going to be honest with you, that ended the conversation. And that family member chose not to do business with that company because they couldn't look eye to eye in a video call with that person, right? And they decided not to invest, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars with that firm because of a bad remote experience, right? So that's a great point. I love the fact that you brought up the financial industry. So Steve, from Avaya's perspective, right, and Toussaint kind of hit on this a little bit, going into COVID and coming out of COVID, right, organizations are looking to realize operational efficiencies, right? And there's been a lot of siloed platforms out there, a lot of point solutions within IT organizations. So can you talk to me a little bit about some of the benefits that organizations have seen by looking at a platform like ACO, where they can take a look and really invest in that cloud model, that consolidated model, and start looking at that connected ecosystem versus siloed services and tools?
Yeah, sure. And I think this is a fascinating subject, in all honesty, because I think a lot of people lump working from home with just video. And the reality is that was how a lot of folks reacted to the pandemic, was just scrambling around to try and figure out what do I have and what can I just expand in place to just get by. And, if you start a discussion with somebody today about, hey, do you need help working from home? Everybody's going to look at you and say, well, we figured that out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been in business at this point. But where a lot of our customers are taking that next step, a year ago today, we were talking about a dramatic shift from changing, or an organization that supported a remote workforce to an organization that supports their workforce remote. It sounds like a play on words, but it's a dramatic difference. And, at Avaya, we have an install base of about 100 million seats around the world. And, we offered help to our customers when that whole issue came up. We said, if you need temporary licenses for your remote workers, we'll give those to you. We'll give them to you for free for a certain time period. And we're really proud of the fact that we helped our customers move 2.5 million employees from workplaces to homes almost overnight. That's a Herculean task. But when you zoom out, we have 100 million seats deployed around the world. We helped 2.5 million of those work remote. What happened to the other 97.5 million, right? And they are working from home in a way that would make MacGyver proud. They're using duct tape, chewing gum, and string.
Right.
cockamamie call forwarding schemes to get calls from the office phone system to my cell phone, using consumer video services, whatever I can get for free, using, professional things. And it's a mess. And that's had an impact on productivity. So those companies are, quote unquote, working from home, but they're limping into, how do I do this right? And that speaks to your point around having an integrated application. Not only does it simplify the end user experience, because when you have everything under one roof, another really interesting vertical we're seeing a lot of discussions happening in is in education, because we will go back to schools, right? The kids will go back to school. But the idea of canceling school because of inclement weather or, having these types of events where school is unavailable, digital learning will be a part of the process moving forward. And a lot of organizations are looking at how do I better support my student base? Mm-hmm. And, to Toussaint's point, putting everything into a single app streamlines the process. So the students are focused more on learning instead of working, instead of trying to make the tools that they've been given work for them in a disconnected environment. Having everything in one place, the teacher assigns a work assignment and the students can ask questions in the same tool that they're using to meet for class, and they can submit their homework in that same tool. It streamlines the process and lets them focus in on what matters to them. And then the other hidden benefit that a lot of organizations are facing. So this was a customer story that, they're part of the 2.5 million. They took advantage of our temporary licensing offer. And they were staring down the barrel of, I've got to figure out how to cut costs. The economy is battering our business. And, we started the discussion saying, well, I know you have an Avaya phone system, and I know the costs that are associated with that, maintenance and phone line service and all this other stuff. But let's zoom out. Let's look at the rest of your collaboration stack. And they, like most customers over the years, have built this best of breed, monolithic, multi-vendor solution. They went out when they needed a video service, they evaluated video service apps. When they needed messaging, they went out and evaluated messaging service apps. And in a cloud world, if you change your thinking from best of breed to best of suite, those apps become features. And the resulting benefit to the organization is you can save a ton of money, both upfront and long term, by moving to cloud. So it helps organizations when they need it economically, and it helps the end users increase productivity through simplification. So it's been
it's amazing. It's amazing, right? I mean, there's a lot of metrics out there about productivity over time, over the course of the last, 11, 12 months. But what folks need to realize when you're looking at that productivity level, you have to take a look at value add process, right? And does it add value to your organization if, you're working out of 5 different tools, the employee experience is difficult, which in turn, law of unintended consequences means the customer experience is going to be difficult, right? If the employees are having a hard time, how can they service their customers effectively? They can't. So having, the single pane of glass, let's say, that ecosystem that works together is part of one productivity suite is extremely important when you talk about productivity and when you talk about cost savings, because if you're putting more work on the employee, you're not really saving in the end, right? Because it's taking them more time to actually complete tasks. And I think that's the whole point of make work less work. Focus on the value add that your employees can bring to the business. Focus on the value add to your customers, and get all of that noise of these multiple tools that are difficult to work in and create roadblocks in your workday. And consolidate, create an ecosystem, create this, again, single pane of glass that employees can work out of effectively and efficiently, and really give that best experience to your customers. So, I mean, it's amazing that, some of the case stories that we see, within organizations that all of a sudden had this like epiphany moment, right? The epiphany moment is, you're right, it's not just video. It's the entire collaboration of how our folks work. And we were saying before the podcast started was the way we work has changed forever, right? I have stories of folks who are working full time for a U.S. company and getting their master's degree in Israel productively, right? So think about that right now. We have the ability with these productivity suites to be able to have folks around the world working for our company effectively, productively, and efficiently. It's amazing where we're at.
Well, and there's going to be challenges as we move into the next step of this, because one of the things that's empowered what we're going through right now is the fact that everyone's on the same playing field and we're all stationary. You know, video works right now because everybody is in one of the squares. You know, we're all working remotely, so nobody is at a different level. When we think about going back to the office, we have to game plan around, how do I support the remote workers when the bulk of the meeting attendees will be in person in a meeting room together? And that's going to be a challenge that I think a lot of organizations struggle to face. Another element of, you know, work from anywhere lies in the fact that once we start moving, the idea of mobility will become crucial again. You know, today we're all doing video from our desktops with webcams, but back at an airport, or if I'm in a hotel, or if I'm at my daughter's soccer game and I have to join a meeting from my phone. And a lot of the innovation work that we're working on together with our partners at RingCentral will drive that type of an environment through the use of things like virtual backgrounds to hide where you are, through the use of transcription so I can stay connected to a discussion even if I can't necessarily hear it well. And the use of background noise reduction will help drive that work from anywhere environment when we're no longer sitting in front of a screen for 8 hours.
Right. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Mobility is key, right? I've seen many instances where, you know, folks try to join calls from airports, hotels, whatever the case may be. And, you know, in that siloed type ecosystem, the experience isn't always great. But what I'm finding is that you're able to function as you would as if you were in your office or your home office, right? If you're in a coffee shop, because you have the ability to do things like file sharing, chat, all of those extra communication methods that you normally wouldn't get with all of those siloed type platforms. So it allows you to have all of those tools and feature functionalities at your fingertips on a mobile phone, on an iPad, whatever the case may be, no matter where you are. So yeah, that's an incredible benefit to having that ecosystem at your fingertips.
If I could add a couple of points there, Jason.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, you know, excellent points across the board, both you and Steve bringing that up. I think mobile is going to be key. We've been mobile-centric from day one. But what I wanted to add to the conversation is, you know, what goes on under the hood, the non-glamorous, not thought of features that are critical, particularly when you go upstream to 5, 10, 20, 40,000 seat businesses. So issue one is reliability. And one of the reasons we've partnered with Avaya is not only because of their huge global footprint, but they partnered with us because they knew we could provide that 5 nines SLA. So you don't have to worry about jitter or latency or a miserable experience, whether you're at your daughter's soccer game or in the airport. It's always crystal clear, both from a video and audio perspective. 2, security. And that's big time.
Absolutely.
So whether it's HIPAA for healthcare, or it's FINRA for finance, or HITRUST for banking and finance, or even FedRAMP, where we are currently on the shortlist to get that finally approved towards the end of this year. But we are soliciting deals as we speak under that bucket. That is also key. And then the third thing, again, not very glamorous, but for the folks back in IT, you can't walk down the hallway to triage all of this. So, how do you move from being reactive to being proactive, which means analytics, and not just downloaded Excel spreadsheets, but can you give it to me in eye candy friendly fashion? Can I see just really easy who's in the red, who's in the green, who's in the yellow? Where did they fall off? Did the video meeting go as it should? Is their home network is that the culprit? Is it the device? Is it the ISP? And being able to do that without having to dig into the weeds for every individual user, these are the things that are going to allow IT to maintain the kind of productivity they would expect when they're in the office.
Right, and that's a great segue, because one of the topics I really did want to talk about was, make work less work isn't just for the end user experience, right? It's make work less work for the IT staff as well. Managing an operational IT organization at Carousel and migrating ACO ourselves, one of the benefits that we realized really, really quickly was infrastructure savings, hardware savings, carrier services consolidation and savings, and then overhead from an IT department administration perspective. And then, hey, by the way, let's take a look at that experience that IT's providing, because now we have the ability to take advantage of these points of presence all over the world to make sure that voice quality is solid, video quality is solid. So no matter where those calls are coming from our people in the United States, in New England, in California, folks in India, no matter where they are in the world, they're taking advantage of those points of presence all over the world to make sure that quality is stellar, right? So I look at, that make work less work, not just a user side, but an IT operational perspective as well. I want my team focusing on the value add, right? And not having to deal with a lot of the noise. And the benefit of bringing in an architecture like this is the noise gets out of the way, right? That keep the lights on type mentality that so many IT organizations are just pummeled with on the daily, that gets out of the way. Now we're being strategic for our organization. We're looking at cost savings. We're looking at quality. We're looking at experience with these right tools. So, I'm not sure, Toussaint or Steve, do you guys have any customer success stories around just IT departments, right? Because I think that's very important, especially for our audience, right? Our audience is IT executives, CIOs, directors, VPs. How does moving to a RingCentral or an ACO platform bring that level of productivity and efficiency to IT?
Yeah, I think one of the areas Tous just hit on is the analytics. One of the biggest fears in IT that I speak with customers on is we've preached the religion of, managed networks, quality of service tagging, MPLS, in order to get good quality audio. And to your point, one of the biggest benefits of a cloud solution is it's delivered over public internet, which is also the wild, wild west, because I don't have access to, ensuring quality. So this seems counterproductive to each other. It's like trying to tell a Red Sox fan to all of a sudden become a Yankees fan, right?
Whoa,
the analytics.
Blasphemy, my friend. Blasphemy.
I'm a Boston guy. That's why I use that analogy. You're never going to get me to follow that path. But I did follow this path because with the analytics package, when something does go wrong and you get that call into the help desk, you have the tools to investigate what happened. You'll see, you can round up the usual suspects. You can see the network performance, upload, download, packet loss, jitter. But then you can dig deeper, because in a world where we're using devices like MacBooks and mobile phones and iPads to join meetings, sometimes the device is the villain of the story. And inside of that analytics tool, your IT help desk will have the ability to see the model number of the device, the operating system, the network connectivity, wired, wireless, cellular, what carrier, device information like processor utilization, memory allocation. So you have the tools to troubleshoot and to make it go away if it's something that's in your control. If Bob from Accounts Payable calls in and he had 100 tabs open in Chrome, all right, we need to coach him to close some of that stuff, right? But if it's something, you had no cell signal, there's just no fix for that, right? But you have the ability to figure it out instead of just guessing. And that helps our IT folks a ton, because there is a certain leap of faith that they're making with this. And having the ability to go back and figure out what happened is extremely valuable.
No, agreed. Just, having experienced it myself with the migration, in many instances, a PBX migration or a UC migration can be scary for organizations. Through the experience that we've had, it was amazing how simplified a migration has become, all the way to interface-driven carrier ports. Amazing. Our team actually was like, can this be true? Can this be real that we can click a button, pick a date, and all of our DIDs are going to be ported in that amount of time and on time? And don't you know, it happened, right? So it's just that amazing level of efficiency that the IT department can drive, leveraging these tools, where a lot of those traditional roadblocks and impediments were in play, those are gone, right? And in many instances, it's surprising to folks in the IT department how efficient and effective it really is. Another place in Toussaint, if you can hit on this a little bit, that ecosystem, right, that we've built for efficiency and effective productivity for our staff doesn't just stop with RingCentral or the ACO ecosystem. There's a lot of line of business application integrations that folks can take advantage of to really build out that ecosystem beyond those walls of just UC and start bringing in line of business applications like CRMs and service delivery automation suites and things of that nature. Can you talk a little bit about some of the integrations that are popular these days with enterprise environments?
I'm glad you brought that up, Jason, because, there are just many layers to this. How do we make this easy and more productive for businesses, IT, and end users? And it starts first doing all the communication and collaboration under one application. But guess what? The bigger you get, there are a ton of other applications that a business is going to be using, whether it's Salesforce or Zendesk or ServiceNow, or it could be Teams, as much as we might see them as a frenemy, or we have a co-opetition environment. We integrate with all flavors of Microsoft, from the old days, Skype days to Teams today. And we understand that users may have a mix and match environment. But then when you get even beyond that, I just got off a call today with our product marketing team. We're going to be launching some messaging around Citrix integration. Mm-hmm. So again, talking about call centers or talking about seasonal employees where you really want a virtual desktop. You don't want them running those applications for a number of reasons, security and otherwise, where that's just the way you run your business. Allowing for a cloud, a UCaaS app to seamlessly integrate out of the box with these types of applications as part of your stack is critical. So RingCentral, we pride ourselves. We always recommend to our customers and our prospects to visit our app gallery. We have hundreds of popular apps that are already integrated out of the box, no extra charge. It just works. And then, of course, we have an extensive developer team. We have over 5,000 developers working to that platform. In healthcare, we're not going to design the software for Epic. That's a legacy application that's very custom to that environment. But we're going to make it easy for you to, send mass SMS communications to let people know the office is closed, or to make sure people have a way to communicate with your local office in a text-based manner. That's just one example of a myriad of other applications that you need to make sure work with your platform. And so I'll just summarize like this: make it simple for communication and collaboration. We call it MVP, message, video, PBX. Make that super simple, one password, one app, but then also make it super simple to extend it beyond that boundary to any application a customer wants to bring to the table.
Yeah, and again, experiencing that, just from our perspective with our CRM and our service delivery, you mentioned, the two vendors, just basic efficiencies like click to dial, right? That it's amazing how that simple efficiency brings so much productivity into a team, right? Where they don't have to go out to an outside application. They're not managing two different screens. Really, it's all one integrated, consolidated experience for that end user to, again, ultimately provide that better experience to the client, right? Because that's, our service delivery people are servicing our customers. Our sales folks are interfacing with our customers, right? So to have that seamless experience on both sides is so very important.
And not to hog the mic, but 10 seconds, just, so my integrations platform team would scold me if I didn't mention, we make it super easy to grab just a couple lines of code to drop in embeddable click to dial into just about any application. I'm glad you brought that up. But Steve, I was hogging the mic from you.
No, that's okay. And I think you hit on something that I'm seeing a lot in the field is a lot of organizations have adopted Teams because it was bundled with 365. And during that scramble to how do I get my workforce remote, they just adopted what was there. And Teams, by and large, was what was there. And for a lot of those customers, they're not incurring cost by using Teams. So when I talk to a lot of our customers, they're at this crossroads of it's a choice, right? Do I choose Teams or do I choose, something new? And, if I look at Avaya Cloud Office, what do I do with Teams? I've got, a year or more of messaging and collaboration and data stored there. And for a lot of our customers, the value is you don't have to choose. If you're not paying anything extra for Teams, don't move away from Teams. We can bring our services and embed those into Microsoft Teams. This is one of the biggest benefits we chose to partner with RingCentral for, was this, it's a platform that we can integrate with. So we don't force choice. We can bring voice into Teams with, to Toussaint's point, a 5 nines reliable backbone. We can offer more features, and we can do it at a really competitive price. So that way you have the best of both worlds. You don't have to choose, especially if you're not incurring cost to use Teams. Because if you move away, it's a hard cut. That's painful. So this makes it simple.
Absolutely. And again, to reap the benefits of that global presence that RingCentral and Avaya have for your PBX, for your voice, right? I mean, that's just an incredible benefit to slip that into the existing ecosystem if you are a Teams organization and looking to migrate to a new PBX. It's, for me, it's a no-brainer. Get the best of both worlds that integrate together seamlessly. It's an absolute no-brainer there. So the last conversation I want to have, and I'm going to be honest, this is something that I'm having conversations with customers, with colleagues weekly on this, right? And it's the board level conversation that's happening today around security and compliance. Over the course of the last 12 months, we've seen everything from people bombing video, right, and jumping into video sessions. We've seen privacy concerns. We've seen breaches happening. Customers coming to us with international toll fraud on legacy PBX systems. And as I did my research on the RingCentral and the ACO platforms, one of the benefits that I saw was security and compliance. Right, we're a managed service provider in a professional services organization with 6,000 customers. We have to manage to 18 different authority documents. We mentioned some of those earlier: FedRAMP, HIPAA, PCI, NISPOM for the government, CJIS for law enforcement. And as the IT and security and compliance leader for Carousel, I take that very seriously because we don't want to be a threat vector to our customers, right? So having that solid posture from an organization that can provide UC services effectively, efficiently, and hey, by the way, securely is a huge check in the box that I need so that I can sleep at night, my team can sleep at night, and not have to worry about security and compliance concerns. So talk a little bit just about what the platforms have done with a focus on security, because I know that you guys are focused on it, right? These days you have to be, and in the conversations that I've had with the teams is that it's an imperative. It's not something that's an option. It's something that's an absolute imperative.
I'll just take a couple of minutes to touch on that. It's such a big topic. Let me just say a few points there. Number one, we've one of the first things I say whenever I'm at a partner academy or any of our events is, we're committed to innovation, which means we take a lot of the revenue that we make and pour it back into our innovation. And a core part of that is trust and compliance. And you can touch on that in a number of ways. So, government regulations, E911, before GDPR came out, we were GDPR ready literally a year prior, because we have such a huge customer base in the UK and EMEA. We knew that would be huge, and we got ready for it so that it didn't catch us by surprise. Data residency. Our good friends up north in Canada have some regulations that require businesses to have the data reside at a data center in country, as do others in Germany and other European and worldwide countries. And we continually roll out data centers to meet those compliance needs. So we do everything we can to meet government regulations and to meet vertical regulations. You mentioned many of them. There are too many for me to mention here. But again, HITRUST, FINRA, SOC compliance, HIPAA, BAA agreements that go on over and above HIPAA, all of that is so that IT can feel comfortable. And then you also have to worry about the last mile, if you will, the end user. So how do we make it so that they have some controls? And just to touch on a few, giving the host the ability to preempt conversations for a guest speaker, or to require verification if they're not on net within your company, they're an outside guest. You can force them to either be admitted or to put in a special password as opposed to just having a meeting ID and jumping in. Having the ability to pass off host controls to someone else if you need to leave the meeting, but you want someone you can trust to continue and run that meeting. All of those things, including firewalls when it comes to sharing content, those are the things we think about and work on every day. And RingCentral for sure is committed to that, as I sure, my good friend Steve and Avaya is as well.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that attracted us to partner with Ring versus others in this space. There are other companies that prioritize simplicity over security, and speed, more frankly, over security. And that leads to just bad outcomes. And we've seen that, and this one's a little personal because my daughter's distance learning. She's a senior in high school, and they had a Zoom bombing incident. So somebody joined a classroom and started swearing obscenities and, shared something inappropriate on the screen. And because they didn't know, they couldn't track who it was. There was no authentication. There was they had no way to figure out who did that. And that to me is inexcusable in a learning environment with minors. Never mind, she's a senior in high school. Never mind if that happened to my 12-year-old niece. I'd be through the roof. And, with our partners at RingCentral, we've created a solution that really covers those bases. It's simple to use, but it's also secure. You're not leaving the front door wide open for who knows who to come in. All traffic is encrypted. So if somebody happens to, intercept your stream, it's a useless bucket of zeros and ones. And to Toussaint's point, they've taken the steps not only to say that they do that, but to prove it through different certifications and achievements. So security is not something that we take lightly. We never have. And this partnership is built on that as well. Their platform is rock solid. So I'm comfortable having my own family use this for meetings and distance learning, and I would recommend it to my customers as a result as well. So we're comfortable with it as well.
That's great. No, that's awesome. Gentlemen, we've had a great conversation today. We've talked about how the ultimate goal is to make work less work. But how about we say, let's make work more effective work, right? Let's be more productive these days. We've talked about the benefits of being within one ecosystem, driving efficiency, driving productivity, all under the blanket of security, which I think, that is the perfect combination of success for organizations, is to have a UC platform where they can trust will bring productivity, a solid ecosystem, performance, global presence, and security. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate the time. Hopefully we can have more sessions like this and drive deeper into these conversations. I love this conversation, so I'm looking forward to more chats like this. And for our listeners, if you want more thought leadership like this or content, you can join us at carouselindustries.com/events, where you can find always on virtual series, webinars, pizza casts, and of course, more episodes just like this. Gentlemen, thank you again so much for joining me.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.